the humbling of Earth's second greatest predator from the sensory reception. Moby Boopin does not sleep. He doesn't know sleep. His is semi-conscious relaxation, just awake enough to remember to breathe. The eye is done. From now, the world will be dark on one side of his body. There's a worse damage to his ability to visualize. The hole in his snout will be slow to heal, and until it does, his ability to project the high-volume sound rays necessary for sonar imaging will be inhibited in the direction immediately ahead of him. With the sun low on the horizon, he sinks into the decadent rest of a glutton. Lingering in that state of semi-consciousness, the harmony of life on Earth satiates him as much as his squid-stuffed belly. He feels a warm current and, by reflex, casts sonar rays in different directions, every direction but forward, damn blind spot. Nothing is moving but the occasional ice floe and a few schools of fish. It takes a long time for the question to form. Why are there no other whales about? Where have his gentle baleen cousins gone? As the question forms, the frequency with which he projects sonar increases. Is a pot of orca nearby? He nearly chuckles inside. With the trail of oily spermaceti still leaking from the wound in his head, and the wisps of blood and ooze from his dead eye, he might give the appearance of being ready to meet his grim orca reaper. But he still packs enough fight to take half a dozen bull orcas down with him. But there are no orcas nearby. With the sea so empty, he'd hear their sonar. He lumbers his great aching head to the side so that he can image the region before him. Damn blind spot. A star-bright flare ignites the sky around him, followed immediately by a crack. A blast of adrenaline jerks Moby Boopin wide awake. Time slows. He curses himself. The answer to that lingering question, a death ship. No whales for miles means death ship. It had always meant death ship. Even his stupid plankton-eating cousins were savvy enough to disappear. The rocket's trajectory comes from the death ship floating directly in front of him. Had it not fired, he'd probably have floated right into it. Stupid. The adrenaline washes the aches down his back to his flukes and away. He rolls to his blind side, exposing his remaining eye to the screaming bright missile. The trail of white fire strikes the water where he had been half a second before. He thanks the squid in his belly for taking his left eye. Had he rolled the other way, he'd be dead. When it impacts the water surface, the grenade at the tip of the rocket explodes. The water boils in both temperature and sound. The flames burn his back, but that isn't the worst of his wounds. The universe goes immediately silent. His sonar is useless. Another burst of adrenaline, but this one brings panic. His body is as long as the death ship. His brain is 3 times the size of that of the man who fired upon him. He has lived almost 80 years in these seas and has skirted the death ships 1,000 times. A thick line of rope trails the harpoon. When the grenade tip explodes, the sleek rocket shape expands in a set of barbs that cuts into but doesn't grab hold of Moby Boopin's hide. As the harpoon sinks, the rope falls across his body. Blind but pissed off, Moby Boopin drives his flukes. With each motion, up, then down, then up, his speed builds. It took hundreds of thousands of years to develop his mind into the most powerful imaging device on Earth. Though he can't see right now, can't create new images in his mind, he has all the necessary data to calculate the position of the ship, still dead ahead. As he accelerates, the rope attached to the harpoon catches his flukes, but rather than retard his motion, it excites greater anger. What the image in his mind lacks is a measure of the robustness of the ship's hull. It is easy for him to see whether a hull is sound or not, The death ships once reflected his projections with a sturdy echo, indicating impenetrable stolidity. But that was decades ago. Now they return the sound of dissolving iron, rust, and decay. He reaches full speed, 50 feet from the ship. This power and speed, the frothy wake against his flukes, the sensation of pushing water ahead, the streaming flow along his body, it is all his. He owns this ocean. His anger feels righteous and wonderful. He pulls his left flipper slightly lower. His body shifts a couple of degrees to port so that he can see his target. He retracts the flipper, and with one last mighty thrust of his flukes, he collides with the center of the hull. 70 tons at 30 miles per hour against a rusted sheet of steel less than an inch thick. Moby Bupin's final emotion is a paradoxical combination of satisfaction with his world and outrage at the incalculable injustice of evolution. His last thought, I am the world's greatest predator, and this is not how I should die. It was only dark for a few beats of his heart. The light came back on. He floated in gentle water next to a beach. He looked at his hands, flexed them, positioned his feet on the ground, stood, and walked up the beach. The immersion tank opened, and Ringo helped Bupin sit up and remove the virtual reality helmet and gloves. Bupin looked around but didn't focus. Ringo was talking to him. The distraction of his anger prevented him from discerning the words. Still righteously pissed off at the universe, he also felt small and insignificant and as alive as he had ever felt. Seconds ago, he was the most powerful being in the world, and now he was a man, another man among the billions, another man carrying evolution's curse on both hands. He looked at each thumb. He'd always believed that gray matter processing power was mankind's providence. But evolution brought processing power to lots of the mammals. It was nothing but folly. Evolution had played a joke on this planet, a joke that would be funny were it not tragic. He stared at them, remnants from when his ancestors swung from tree to tree, appendages that remain even after those strange apes left the safety of trees to run across savanna. In the same way that whales evolved the processing power required for sonar, humans developed gray matter for sight. The apes who couldn't see died. The survivors could see farther and understand faster. But humans' tree-climbing forebears left them with the ultimate weapon, thumbs. Bupin buried his face in his hands. His thumbs covered his eyes. He was just another man with the illegitimate power to slay any other animal on a whim.